Hello everyone and welcome to a new Presearing video. Today I want to go over 10 Presearing tips, mostly stuff aimed at beginners, just random bits of information that I found or thought of that might be useful if you're starting your adventure in this beautiful area. By the very nature of this video, since it's tips for beginners, you probably won't learn anything new if you're a Presearing veteran. Nevertheless, I hope you'll enjoy. And the first tip we're gonna start off is downscaling daily quests. After you hit level 10, Lieutenant Langmar will begin offering you quests that refresh every single day and reward you with 50 gold and a whopping 1000 experience. Having these quests active will spawn higher level enemies, which are a good way to get some additional experience on top of the 1000 XP reward. But the enemies get stronger if you reach levels 14 and 17, and sometimes you just don't want that, for example if you're trying to get the Survivor title. This is where downscaling comes in. The quest enemies scale down to the level of the lowest leveled party member, so if you want very easy daily quests, you can party up with a level 10 to 13 alt or a friend, and the enemy spawn will be in the lowest level bracket. The low level party member has to be at least level 10, otherwise the quest enemies won't spawn, and preferably should be under level 14, otherwise monsters will be stronger. This is the strategy that I use on my way to rank 3 Survivor, to have the daily quests be as easy as possible. One downside of this though is that I don't gain any XP from the monsters, but I can quickly and safely claim my 1000 XP reward. The second tip is related to the first, and it's opening 2 game clients at the same time. If you want to downscale daily quests, get more nick gifts, or just easily transfer your items between characters, I would advise on buying another game key for Guild Wars and creating a second account. The issue arises when trying to open 2 clients simultaneously, since the game won't let you do that by default. Unless you have 2 computers, you have to use some less than official software, let's say, and the one I use personally is called Guild Wars Multi-Launch. It opens up multiple instances of the game installation, meaning you'll have to install the game at least twice in 2 different directories. For example, I have one on my D drive and one on an external hard drive. Then, just launch them one by one and voila, you can play multiple Guild Wars accounts at the same time. I will add the link to it in the description if you're interested. Tip number 3 also relates to the daily quests and to the buff applied to you when doing them. If you accept a quest from Lieutenant Langmar, you will be under the effects of the Vanguard Initiate buff. You don't need to actively be doing the quests at the moment, you can do whatever you want in any map you want, you just need to have the quest in your quest log and it can't be completed. The Vanguard Initiate buff sets your armor to a static value that you can see in the table which I put on your screen through the magic of editing. The updated armor values are in effect versus any enemy above level 5, and since the buff doesn't increase your armor but rather sets it to a value, it has some important implications which you should keep in mind. Firstly, armor increasing insignia has no effect, so you should use Vitae or Radiant or Knight if you're a warrior. And secondly, the base armor of shields also has no effect, so often using a focus item will be much more beneficial for the added energy. This only applies to the base armor, so for example if you have the tall shield with 4 armor plus 10 armor versus char, the 4 base armor will be ignored, but the plus 10 armor versus char will still take the effect. Tip number 4 is about weapon swaps, and even though this is Guild Wars 1, not Guild Wars 2, we still do a bit of weapon swapping via the weapon sets function. You can find it by clicking the weapon sets button in your inventory panel. The game lets you have 4 different presets, and you can switch between them by pressing F1, F2, F3 and F4 by default. It's up to you how many you want to use, but even in Presearing they can provide some amazing utility. Apart from your main equipment, which I'll assume you keep on F1, your F2 swap could be a longbow for pulling from afar, since longbows have the highest range. F3 could be a high energy set, which you use for the first few spellcasts, after which you swap to your regular set once your energy drops down. And F4 could be a defensive set, which you put on when you're running away from the char. An example defensive set could be the Tall Shield from the Bandit raid quests and the Long Sword of Shelter from the Char at the Gate quest, or any one-handed weapon with a plus armor mod. Just don't use Ruined Blade, as the plus 5 armor versus char from that sword is bugged and doesn't work. Tip number 5 is just a quick heads up that despite what the gate guard Thorin tells you, you don't need a partner anymore to open the gate to the Northlands. Since the game update on June 6, 2018, the gate now stays open for twice as long, which allows a solo player to venture across the wall completely on their own. The timing is still a bit tight, so just make sure you click the lever and instantly begin to run down. What I do is set my camera to look through the grate to see the ground down below, and then click on the lever and click on the ground through the bars so my character runs there automatically. For number 6, you probably heard that it's a good idea to save all the quests for level 16, but you might not know why. Leveling from 16 to 17 is the slowest part of your road to Legendary Defender, and since the Vanguard enemies enter a new level bracket starting from level 17, you are still stuck with lower level monsters if you're 16 and you gain very little experience from them. This is why people save all the quests and do them at this level. It's to use all of the experience from quest rewards to breeze through the slowest part. But all quests doesn't actually mean all quests. You should do the initial test quest to unlock some skills, you can do the adventure with an ally quest if you want the resurrection signet, and you should probably do the Gwen's flute quest early on. Otherwise, joining a party with another player could bug the quest out and you won't be able to ever complete it. Also, don't feel pressured to save every single quest if they have rewards you want. You can level from 16 to 17 just fine even without any quest saving at all, it will just take a little bit longer. What you should really avoid doing is completing the Bandit Raid and Protection Prayer quests if you have a Monk primary or a secondary. Those two quests spawn a bunch of additional bandits, which creates a fantastic AoE farm. If you want the Tall Shield from the Bandit Raid quest, you can do it on a secondary character and trade the shield over to your main. Additionally, make sure to complete every quest that introduces you to another profession before you commit to selecting a secondary, otherwise you won't be able to do them anymore. These are a Mesmer's Burden, a Monk's Mission, Groll Invasion, the Elementalist Experiment, the Necromancer's Novice, and the Ranger's Companion. Lastly, if you want to make sure you didn't miss any quests, I will link a full list of all the Presearing quests in the description. Tip number 7 is useful for your entire Guild Wars adventure, but especially so in Presearing as we don't get the bonus 30 attribute points you get in post, and it's about understanding breakpoints. In general, if you increase an attribute, your skills from that attribute become stronger, but that's not the case for every single point you spend. Let's take Wilderness Survival as an example. In Presearing, there are two skills that scale off this attribute, Ignite Arrows and Troll Unguent. Ignite Arrows increases in damage with every point in Wilderness Survival, but Troll Unguent increases your regeneration every 2 points spent. If you have your Wilderness Survival at 6 and you spend points to get it to 7, you will get a small boost to the Ignite Arrow's damage, but the healing you get from the Troll Unguent won't increase at all since you didn't hit the breakpoint. It might not be worth it to spend your points just for that small damage increase, so you might want to either go all the way to 8 Wilderness Survival and get higher regeneration too, or stay at 6 and spend your points elsewhere. This of course applies to many other attributes and many other skills, so if you want to tinker with your build a bit, I would advise researching your skills on Guild Wars Wiki. For tip number 8, we'll talk briefly about the basics of the anti-farming code. It's a broad subject, and while it's been researched by the community a whole lot, we still can't be sure about all the intricacies. But in short, have you ever entered the catacombs from Green Hills County to farm some gargoyles, you cleared the entire room and you only got one skull? That was anti-farming code in action. The basic gist of it is, to prevent power farming monsters that are close to the entrance, ArenaNet implemented a mechanism that greatly reduces the number of loot you get from the first few monsters you kill in each area, and that particularly hurts when AoE farming, since the loot is reduced from all the monsters if you kill them in a short time span. To return your loot capabilities to normal, you need to just kill a few monsters beforehand, and that's pretty much it. In practice, this means killing a few scale on your way to AoE the entire pack, or starting your catacombs clear at skeletons even if you need some gargoyle skulls. Tip number 9 will be for you rangers out there. If you ever tamed a stalker for the Ranger's Companion quest, but what you really wanted is a bear, or if you wanted to get a dire pet but it turned out playful, you don't need to delete your character and start again. There's a pet tamer, aptly named Jarl the Tamer, located in Regent's Valley, who will take the pet off your hands so you can charm another. Just try not to overuse this service, as I'm sure your pet gets really sad when you leave them. And the last tip for today, if you're unsure which secondary profession to pick, or you want to stay one profession for a bit, or you're just leveling up to 16 before committing, you can pick one of the 6 introductory profession quests to get some free skills. Since you don't have that profession as your secondary yet, you can't invest any attribute points to make the skills stronger, but even at 0 attributes, some skills still offer very good utility. While the Mesmer and Necromancer skills are pretty underwhelming at 0 attribute, accepting a Monk's mission will give you Bane Signet, which still offers a knockdown. Growl Invasion gives Healing Signet, which even at 0 tactics heals for 82 with no energy cost. The Elementalist Experiment will grant you the ability to use the Glyph of Lesser Energy to reduce the cost of your next 2 spells by 10. And the Ranger's Companion will let you have a fully functional pet, albeit with lower damage without any points in Beast Mastery. And with that, we made it to the end. I hope you learned something new. And if not, hopefully it was at least a nice viewing experience. Let me know if you enjoyed this format, and in the meantime, thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, hope you'll have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.